Welcome back. We're picking up in verse 6 today of Jonah chapter 1. So the captain came to him, that is to Jonah, who's asleep in the bottom of the ship. And remember, there's a bad storm going on. All the pagans are calling out to their gods. They're throwing cargo overboard. Meanwhile, Jonah is just asleep and oblivious. So the captain came to him and said, "What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, call on your God." Here's that word arise. Again, get up, Jonah, get up. Call on your God, perhaps your God will consider us so that we may not perish. So they have appealed to their false gods, to their pagan gods, and nothing has happened. So they do an inventory of who's on the ship and who's not crying out. And they realize there's another person aboard here, and he's asleep. He's not even aware or cognizant of what's going on. So the man in authority, the captain, came to him and implored him to wake up and pray to his God. And they said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this trouble has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And so casting lots is a little bit confusing to us of this generation. In our culture, we don't know exactly what that looks like. But basically, they had some little objects that they would throw, and God would allow them to determine his will or his purpose or help them make decisions by doing this. So as they prayerfully sought the Lord, this is something that he would use to show them. So the question was, why is this happening? They were aware that this was no ordinary storm. There was a reason for the storm. And so they thought if they cast lots, they would find out who the guilty person was that was aboard. And the Lord caused it to happen that Jonah was pointed out as the problem. Verse 8. Then they said to him, "Please tell us, for what causes this trouble upon us? What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and of what people are you?" So they're asking him a bunch of questions. They're trying to get to the bottom. They're investigating the cause of this problem. And he speaks up in verse 9. It says, "So he said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Wow, what a mouthful of not truth. Here's Jonah declaring that he fears God, and yet he is not in fear of God. He's in rebellion to God. He's not respecting him. He's not honoring him. He is not obeying him. He is not seeking him. He is not repenting before him. His mouth is saying stuff that his life, his actions are refuting. You have to be careful that your testimony lines up with your walk. If we are claiming Christ, then our life should bear fruit in keeping with that. There should be something about our lives that makes it obvious that we serve him. And he goes on to tell them that God is the one who made the heaven and the sea. And so here they are at the sea. Something awful is happening at the sea. He says, "I serve this God." Obviously, it's his fault that this God is doing something to them. And yet we see no repentance here. We see no humility on the part of Jonah. We just see kind of a boastful, maybe I'm misjudging him, but it seems like a boastful declaration where there seems to be no action to bear it up. Verse 10, "Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, 'Why have you done this?' For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord because he had told them." So here he is shattering his witness before these pagans. He's already told them, "I'm on the run from God. I fear him, but I'm running from him. I know where he wants me to be. I don't want to be there, so I'm hoping that I can give him the slip. Like if I go where he doesn't want me to be, then he probably won't go there and I can get away from him." And so they're frightened now because they realize that this God has a just case against this man Jonah. And that gives them very little hope that they're going to survive this tumult upon the sea. Verse 11, "And they said to him, 'What shall we do to you that the sea may be calm for us?' For the sea was growing more tempestuous." So now that he had confessed to them that this was his fault, that it was his God causing it, that he was in disobedience, he was on run from the Lord, they're asking him, "Please, you tell us what we need to do. Like, this is your God, you know what he wants, so fill us in. What do we need to do?" The world is looking at you today as you deal with your situations, trying to find out from you what they ought to do. Will you be a Jonah, or will you be a faithful servant of the Lord? Come back next time as we pick up in verse 12.